Good morning. Typhoon Noguri looks to skim by the southern region of the peninsula after forcing some hundreds of thousands to take shelter in Okinawa. Mixed messages of Korea's economic indicators with the local currency rising and slowing domestic demand. What does the second half of 2014 have in store? The original papdoduk, or rice thief, this scrumptious delight will turn anyone into a rice monster. Get a look at a Korean crowd favorite. And summer's got you down. Cool off with ice cream or the bingsu from home. Angela Park and Peter Bint has the goods on Korea Today, Wednesday, July 9th, 2014.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
And good morning. Welcome to Korea Today on this Wednesday morning. I'm Kim Min-jung alongside Kim Young and Jin-ju.
Good morning. Now, many of you might have already made plans for the summer vacation. And for those of you who are planning to travel abroad, there's something you need to check before you go.
That's right.
That's right. A warning system has been devised by the South Korea's foreign ministry, and it consists of 4 different colors. And we'll start with one of them right now. Navy. The color navy would say caution, so take heed.
Exercise
there are
caution,
some exercise caution if you are traveling there. Orange says refrain from traveling to that area. Red is to evacuate if you're already there, and black is just plain restricted.
That's right. And black includes the countries, namely Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Somalia, and Syria. Koreans are, as of now, banned from entering those countries. I'm sure this visual chart will come in handy when you are planning your trip abroad. So do check out their website. It's available at the Foreign Ministry's website. All right, we are going to get an update, though, on that powerful storm. Typhoon Noguri has lost its title as a super typhoon as it passed over Japan's Okinawa Islands early Tuesday, but it is bringing torrential rain and gusty winds of up to 252 kilometers per hour along its path. Japan's state-run broadcaster NHK reported 19 casualties related to the storm so far, while some 590,000 residents across Okinawa have been advised to take shelter. The typhoon is weakening as it moves towards the Korean peninsula, but weather officials in Korea are taking no chances. Over on Jeju Island, a typhoon advisory has been issued both inland and offshore, with strong winds, high waves, and up to 200 millimeters of rain forecast until Thursday morning. Meteorologists are advising residents and visitors to take precautionary measures.
The state audit agency released an interim report on the Sewol ferry disaster on Tuesday, which pointed a significant amount of blame on the government's negligence and corruption. The ongoing parliamentary probe found through transmission recordings made public that authorities had wasted time during most of the crucial moments following the disaster. The Board of Audit and Inspection also found falsified information submitted by the ferry's operator, Cheonghaejin Marine Company. Cargo information was grossly misreported, and some Coast Guard officials stand accused of receiving kickbacks in return for favors. And in related news, Prime Minister Chung Hong-won announced in an address to the nation that a joint committee under the Prime Minister's office allowing civilians to take part in President Park Geun-hye's reform drive will be established. The committee will gather public opinion on reform measures on ways to improve the national safety and rooting out social corruption. The Prime Minister promised the completion of a master plan and blueprint for a safer Korea by next February.
And the latest Fortune 500 list is out, and a total of 17 Korean companies have made it onto the coveted list. Among Korean firms, tech giant Samsung Electronics led the pack at 13th on the rankings of the most valuable companies by revenue, followed by SK Holdings at 64th, and the country's biggest automaker, Hyundai Motor Company, moving up 4 notches to 100th. 3 additional companies, Hanwha Corporation, Samsung C&T, and Lotte Shopping, newly joined the rankings this year. Overall, Walmart topped the list, pushing ExxonMobil out of the way, and Samsung Electronics' arch rival Apple took the 5th spot on the annual list this year.
Now, record high exports and more than 2 years of trade surplus. This is the story of Korea, but it doesn't tell the entire story. With its local currency recently strengthening to its highest level against the U.S. dollar in nearly 6 years and domestic demand slowing, economic indicators for the first half of the year are showing that the second half won't be that rosy. Arirang News' Song Ji-san joins us to tell us more. Good morning, Ji-san.
Morning, Gigi. We just saw yesterday on Tuesday the Samsung Electronics very disappointing figures for the second quarter. In fact, their profits and earnings and revenue were the lowest in 2 years. That is because their demand for smartphone was actually slowing down because the market is saturated, and Korean won's strength against the U.S. greenback has also played a part. Now, the demand of the market and the Korean currency strength against the greenback is the two key factors we should keep a close eye on the Korea's performance in GDP growth for the first half. Now let's take a closer look at how it will fare in the second half. Seoul's outbound shipments logged another record high in the first half of the year at over $280 billion. But rising exports cannot guarantee a rosy outlook for Korea's trade front, as a strengthening Korean won has cast a long shadow over export-reliant companies, especially small and mid-sized manufacturers. Many believe it is now a matter of time before the won gets below 1,000 won per dollar, with the Korea Exchange Bank projecting that the exchange rate will stay below that rate in the fourth quarter. But external factors will still be the deciding factor for the won's value against the greenback.
The Korean currency is under continuous upward pressure as the dollar is weak in the global market at the moment, and foreign funds continue to flow into the Korean market. But the foreign exchange trend could be swayed when the U.S. Federal Reserve wraps up its stimulus program in the third quarter.
As for the current account, it recorded a surplus for the 27th consecutive month in May, while on its way to surpassing initial forecast of $55 billion for this year. But the figure could be tricky, as it's a surplus that was created by a reduction in imports that came on the back of weaker domestic demand. In fact, weaker domestic demand that was further dented by April's ferry disaster is considered one of the major factors here.
Domestic demand has become even more important at this point, because that's what's going to create new jobs and increase production output, eventually supporting stable growth.
With the final growth figures for the second quarter yet to be released, major think tanks have revised down their outlooks for Korea's GDP growth for this year by an average of 0.2 percentage points. The central bank is also expected to adjust its forecast from 4 to 3.8% in its monetary policy meeting Thursday. The government says that it is doing all it can to prop up the domestic economy and support the public while continuing its reforms and prepping countermeasures for possible external shocks like the U.S. exit strategy.
So, Ji-san, the confirmation hearing for the finance minister nominee was held yesterday, and he pledged that he would do everything he can to boost the economy. What was his assessment of the current economic condition in the country, and what were some of his plans?
Well, checking on the multi-term lawmaker and the deputy prime minister nominee says downside risks for Korea is actually more serious than he had expected. In fact, he's actually considering revising the government's forecast down by at least 0.2 percentage point. And the government's also having trouble in collecting tax, so the tax revenue is expected to be lower than they have expected. But they're not considering a tax hike because it's going to be burdening the already sagging economy. And in addition, he also said he will seek to push forward for an extra budget after considering the current economic situation and complete monitor of the situation. He also mentioned a smoothing operation for the foreign exchange rate, because if the foreign exchange rate or the Korean won strength is too strong for the market's impact, he will consider intervening in the market from the government or the central bank side. So all these external factors, as well as the Korean government's or the Korean economy's fundamentals regarding the factors inside and outside of the domestic economy, will be a crucial factor in the government's intervening of the market in the second half.
And also coordinating the monetary and economic policies with the central bank would be crucial for the government's new economic team as well. Thank you, Ji-sun, for that report today.
Thank you.
Good morning. It's time to run through the front pages of your newspapers. And we have quite a few important business stories this morning, but before we go into those, let's start with a landmark finding of a Korean national treasure over in the United States. Beginning on 동아일보, we'll take a look at this front page image. And the headline says, Korea Buddhist painting found in the U.S. after 700 years. Now, this painting, produced during the Goryeo Dynasty period, was identified in an art museum at the Rhode Island School of Design. And this particular piece from the early 14th century is a very detailed painting, also in good condition and thus evaluated to be of great value. The fruitful discovery is an outcome of a database building business of Buddhist paintings that has been under progress by the Freer Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., with the support from the Korean Cultural Heritage Administration. And now taking a look at another front page image of Gyeongyang-Shinmun. And this one is the latest on the latest typhoon Noguri. This is a picture of high, rough waves surging in down in the southern part of Jeju Island, where a high seas watch has been issued against the typhoon Noguri, according to the Daily. Now, as Noguri proceeds north, it is expected to dump torrential rain on the southeastern regions of Korea today and tomorrow. You'll be hearing more updates on this with weather later on. Now, switching gears to some business news. First up on the Korea Economic Daily. And this one on Samsung Electronics is on pretty much all of the local papers, but we'll be looking at this headline here, and it reads, Galaxy legend in crisis, Samsung undergoes earnings shock. Now, it looks like Samsung Electronics' quarterly operating profits are expected to fall below 8 trillion won. That's about $8 billion for the first time in 2 years. If we take a look at this graph, the company said in its earnings guidance yesterday that it posted 7.2 trillion won. That's about $7 billion of profit in the second quarter, which is a 24% drop from the 9.5 trillion won recorded 1 year ago. Its sales were at 52 trillion won in the meantime, representing a 9.5% fall compared to the same period in 2013. Now, Samsung tried to explain the profit decline, saying that a strong Korean won and a sluggish smartphone market were the major factors behind this fall. Now, in related news, we'll go to 중앙일보. Another story explaining one of the reasons behind this fall. Excuse me. And it's a top story citing China's rise in its IT capability as an important reason behind the fall as well. Like I said, the header says, grand strike by China's IT power. Now, Samsung's smartphone business, which accounts for more than 70% of the company's total business profits, has been losing ground to Chinese companies in recent years, while Chinese handset makers have been quickly building up their competitive edge in the global markets. And Samsung Electronics hasn't been able to show that many differentiating factors in its smartphone business. And here in the sub-headlines, it says that Chinese companies like Lenovo and Huawei are increasingly expanding their market shares in the Chinese market, which has, in fact, grown into the biggest handset market in the world. Now, they're also increasing their presence in North America and Europe, which Samsung has long dominated with its high-end smartphones. Moreover, the weak sales of Samsung's new smartphone, the Galaxy S5, in these regions have definitely aggravated the situation. And wrapping up with a look at the Mail Business newspaper. For this top story, it's about small and mid-sized businesses, established companies being put up for sale in Korea's M&A market. The header says 3,000 SMEs a year put up for sale. So scores of small but established firms have been heavily battered by the economic downturn and mounting inheritance tax. Hence, these family businesses awaiting imminent succession are in critical need now of finding a new owner. The paper adds that 3,000 to 5,000 businesses and promising companies worth between 1 billion and 100 billion won are flooded into the market for sales every year, but unfortunately only 3 to 4% are able to close the deal. And that was a look at your newspaper headlines for this Wednesday. Now coming up are the stock numbers from Tuesday.
After forcing the evacuation or sheltering of hundreds of thousands in Okinawa, Typhoon Noguri, it is turning towards Japan, the mainland Japan, but at the same time it is going to skim by, and high seas are expected.
The southern part of the Korean peninsula. We will get a closer look at this and today's weather conditions with our Chun Sung-cho, who joins us from outdoors. Let's go over to her right now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. I'm reporting live from the Hangang Park. Typhoon Noguri has weakened after its winds peaked at 250 kilometers per hour yesterday, so it is no longer a super typhoon. However, it still remains very powerful, causing damages and casualties in its path. As of now, Noguri is off the south coast of Jeollabuk-do Island, about to take the northeast turn to Japan. Jeju and the southern coastal areas are currently being hit with Noguri's outer band, receiving some precipitation, which will spread to the central regions in the afternoon. Jeju-do Island has been issued with a typhoon advisory as it'll be battered with destructive winds up to 40 meters per second and heavy rain up to 200 millimeters. Surging waves can cause life-threatening damages, so residents should really watch out for further development of the typhoon. Next morning is when we'll start seeing some improvement in the weather conditions. Now with that, let's move on over to take a closer look at today's forecast. We have rain clouds all over the country, but warm and humid air from Noguri in the south are bringing the temperatures up, especially around the central regions. Seoul is the hottest at 33, Daegu and Daejeon at 30, and Jeju is the coolest at 26 degrees Celsius. Nationwide showers are in today's forecast, but even during the night, lows will hover around mid-20s, so hot, humid conditions will continue. This is all for me with the weather update. Back to Minjung.
And time now for a look through the global headlines we're following this morning. For that, we'll turn to Eunice Kim, who joins us from the News Center. Good morning to you, Eunice.
And good morning, Minjung.
Now, Japan's review of the Kono statement has been a hot topic here in Korea. And over in the Netherlands, an NGO has held a protest against Tokyo as well.
That's right. A group of people, many of them in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, braved the rain to protest Japan's review of the Kono statement. Some were survivors of Japanese POW camps in Indonesia, which Tokyo had occupied during World War II. The demonstration was organized by the Foundation of Japanese Honorary Debts. Its leader called Japan's conclusion last month that the landmark apology for Japan's use of sex slaves was a result of diplomatic negotiations, quote, false and deceitful, and said if Tokyo wants to revisit its wartime crimes, it should do so with UN-appointed independent historians and lawyers. Some 110,000 Dutch were imprisoned during Japan's 3-year occupation of Indonesia from 1942 to 1945. The Foundation of Japanese Honorary Debts has held protests calling for an apology every month since 1994. Tuesday's was their 236th demonstration. Israel's offensive against Hamas-led Gaza has intensified. It struck more than 100 sites on Tuesday, killing at least 19 Palestinians. Palestinian medical officials say 3 children were among the dead. And dubbed Operation Protective Edge, the offensive sent rockets targeting the homes of several Hamas operatives. Israel's military said it also took out a Hamas command center inside a civilian building. The Palestinian Islamists threatened an earthquake in response. Late Tuesday, a pair of rockets were launched deep into the Israeli side, targeting its commercial capital of Tel Aviv. They were intercepted by an Israeli rocket defense system, though. In Jerusalem, residents took cover when air raid sirens went off. Israeli Cabinet Minister for Internal Security said a ground invasion into Gaza was a possibility in the operation that won't end in days.
Now, moving on to another hot potato in Washington, a massive child migration into U.S. borders from Central America. U.S. President Barack Obama is asking Congress for an emergency immigration fund.
Indeed, and he is asking for $3.7 billion to deal with what's been called a humanitarian crisis. More than 50,000 undocumented children have arrived in the U.S. since October, depleting immigration resources, and the emergency funds would be used in their transportation and their detention, as well as care and the speedy deportation of adults with children, as well as boosting surveillance at the border. In many of these cases, these children are fleeing violence at their home countries, and officials at the United Nations are now pushing for the immigrants to be treated as refugees displaced by armed conflict. And that's a wrap of the global headlines we're following this morning.
And coming up later, a food that's hailed as one of Korea's best, Ganjang-Gejang, and not just any old dish from any old place. On Korea's Strike Gold, we unveil the mouth-watering soy sauce marinated crabs from a hugely successful place in Gunsan, Jeollabuk-do Province. Stay tuned to get a glimpse.
A collaboration in art can lead to greater understanding between different culture, and this time we have something that can be described as East meets West, and our Im Yoon-hee joins us with more on this. Good morning.
Good morning. Right, so today I have an arts concert that shows the contrast between countries, but through this comparison you also see the realization that these countries do share these commonalities as well. So take a look.
The voice is an instrument for many when it comes to the arts. And for many others, it can be a violin or a guitar. Regardless of the means, the end result is an expression of the artist. And in this case, an experience of the classical. That includes everything from the harmony of music to the power of a painting.
The creation of music and painting comes from the same source of inspiration, so we prepared a fun way to enjoy both at the same time. However, the East and West are very different when it comes to those two subjects, so we also wanted to show these differences while still being able to appreciate both.
Ewha Women's University is a prestigious school with a vast arts department. The perfect host for this year's arts concert. The distinct sounds of Korean traditions and culture represent the East in this cultural exchange. Together, these Korean traditional sounds weave to form harmony and a partnership brought forth by the Ewha Traditional Music Ensemble, a group of musicians that bring each instrument's unique sounds to life.
The most prominent feature of the daegum is that it makes a very clear sound. The most famous daegum solo is called 청성곡, and it goes like this. Nowadays, the need to spread Korean music is not as prominent. Instead, we can use our willpower and efforts to create the music and sounds we want to hear, and this is the perfect opportunity to do so.
Beautiful.
Right, so we just saw a few Korean instruments like the daegum, but they're also playing orchestra instruments there as well.
All right, so this year's theme, it happens to be, or it seems to be, Korea and Germany.
Exactly. Right, so they're going to be they host this comparison with the partnership with the country every year. And so this year they'll be showing 40 different paintings, roughly 40 different paintings, but they'll also be playing different instruments. And they'll be categorizing these into 4 categories: humanism, extraordinariness, nobility, and realism. So 4 very different categories where you can really see differences between music, and they're just trying to collaborate and bring these 2 countries together.
And it's always a treat when you get a chance to see different cultures unite, and for a concert, you get to, although they're not playing together, you get a chance to hear both sides of the music.
Right.
And also, this is something that isn't ending anytime soon. I do understand that this is going to keep going on in the future.
Yeah, so they are planning this for the long run. And so this year they are partnering with Germany. Next year it's also going to be, they plan to do it with them, Italy, France, Spain in the future. They've done it with Austria. So different countries with a lot to offer in the arts department in terms of history, paintings, and music as well.
This is something that I think if you are into the arts, if you are into the classical arts and music, then you have to check this out because you get a taste of different worlds and the different music that they have.
It's only available for one night, so keep your eye on it.
All right, hurry up. All right, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And still ahead on Korea Today, yes, summer is here. It has been muggy. It's been getting scorching hot. We've been getting a lot of sunshine as well. And that means you need to cool off. How do you do it? Some people go the route of fighting the heat with the heat. But you can just go ahead and do it the old-fashioned way, which is fight the heat with the cold. Ice cream in Korea's ice-flake dish, bingsu, from home. Get a look at that later on Korea Today.
Definitely looking forward to that bowl of hot bingsu.
Getting thirsty already. Yeah, for smokers living in an apartment, you should think once more before you light your cigarette indoors or more specifically in the bathroom.
That's right. It's because the smoke not only affects your house, but also your neighbor's house. So how much of an impact would this have? Our Seo Mi-sorang will tell us from the digital room. Good morning to you,
Good
Mi-sorang.
morning.
Good morning, guys. So, for example, if someone smoked in their bathroom with the ventilator on, it took less than 5 minutes for the smoke to spread to the upper and lower households. Before I expand on this and other scenarios, let's quickly run through the different issues trending online. Singer actor Yoon Ge-sang of the group G.O.D is hospitalized with meningitis, and people look up the various causes of meningitis and their prevention methods. Prime Minister Chung Hong-won vows to encourage active civilian participation in President Park's national reform drive by including them in the Reform Committee. Starting next week on July 15th, advertisements for airfares must include all additional costs such as fuel surcharge and airport fees. Mobile phone carriers KT and LG U+ have launched new brands of budget phones, joining SK Telecom in a fierce three-way competition. Now, going back to the first listing there, just how bad is smoking indoors for the room's air quality? Well, the National Institute of Environmental Research recently conducted a study to find this out, both with the ventilator on and with it off. First of all, if someone living in an apartment smoked cigarettes in their bathroom with the ventilator on, it took less than 5 minutes for the smoke to spread to the upper and lower households. On the other hand, if both the upper and lower households had their bathroom ventilators on at the same time, a chimney effect was created and the smoke was channeled through the ventilation pipes and out the rooftop. Now, what if the person lit their cigarettes in a closed room without a ventilator? For the average size room of about 24 square meters, smoking just 2 cigarettes was enough to elevate the air's heavy metal concentrations to above that seen in your typical subway platform. Moving on to our next issue, singer-actor Yoon Ge-sang of group G.O.D is hospitalized with meningitis, sparking a sudden interest in the disease, essentially an inflammation of the protective membranes covering the brain and the spinal cord. Let's have a look at the different types and ways to prevent them. The two main types of meningitis are caused by bacteria and virus. The early signs and symptoms of both types are similar to that of the common cold, such as fever and headaches. But bacterial meningitis can progress very fast and is potentially lethal. Fortunately, however, many forms of bacterial meningitis can be prevented with vaccination. On the other hand, viral meningitis, the more common form and the one Yoon Ge-sang is reportedly diagnosed with, isn't as lethal or debilitating as bacterial meningitis, and most patients fully recover in due time. But there aren't any vaccines for viral meningitis, so preventative habits, such as frequent hand washing and drinking boiled water only, are strongly recommended. And with that, it's a wrap up for today's edition of your Daily News Sum Up.
And a good Wednesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2014 Brazil World Cup as the semifinals match began earlier today, starting off with the host nations Brazil and Germany. Let's take a look at the highlights. so far. Of course, Brazil without their key stars Neymar due to his injury and Thiago Silva after the yellow card accumulation, as Germany takes quickly advantage of this as Thomas Müller scores off in the corner in the 11th minute as Germany goes up 1-0 early on. And then in the 23rd minute, Brazil defense collapses once again as Miroslav Klose sends one past Julio Cesar, breaking the record set by the Brazilian Ronaldo for the most overall goals in the World Cup. But we're not done yet. Toni Kroos scores shortly after, once in the 24th, then again in the 26th, breaking it wide open with a 4-0 lead. 29th minute, Sami Khedira contributing to the German barrage, 5-0. And then in the second half, not as many goals, but Germany just can't stop scoring as Anja Schürrle scores not only once, but twice in the second half. Of course, Oscar does score late in the match, but not going to help as Germany crushes Brazil 7-1 to advance to the World Cup finals. And now staying with football, this time with the South Korean striker Park Ju-young, who's been heavily criticized over his lack of form during the Brazil World Cup. Now, despite all that, he's still linked to a move to the Turkish Super League. Now, Bursaspor FC, who's been looking for a striker this summer, is currently in talks with the South Korean striker, according to several reports from Turkey. And this move is made possible with the fact that the current Bursaspor manager, Sunol Gunesh, has managed Park Ju-young before when he coached FC Seoul from 2007 to 2009. Although the move has not been confirmed just yet, it's speculated that it will happen soon. And now moving over to some Tuesday night KBO action, some scores here that were less than the Brazil-Germany match. Kia Tigers win one over the SK Wyverns 10-6. SK scoring less than Germany. Samsung shutting out Lotte 4-0. Less scores than the Germany, of course, Brazil match there. And also Nexon Heroes crushed the Hanwha Eagles 17-3. Thanks to an 11-run third. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the highlights between the Doosan Bears and the LG Twins. And of course, going into the game here, Chung Soo-bin, he's going to lead off with a drive to deep right, and there it goes, gone. A leadoff home run, giving Doosan the early 1-0 lead. Second inning of the game, Choi Jae-hoon an RBI triple to right center. Kim Jae-ho scores, and it's 2-0 before Chung Soo-bin with an RBI bunt single, giving the Doosan Bears the 3-0 lead. But bottom of the inning, Cheon Sung with an RBI single to left center cuts the deficit to 3-1 before Chae Kyung-chul plunks one to right, making it 3-2. But the third inning, Oh Jae-won increases Doosan's lead with an RBI single to right as Doosan takes a 4-2 lead. And if you thought that's all the offense for the night, wrong, because after 22 runs and 36 hits between the two teams, the Doosan Bears come up on top as they beat the LG Twins 14-8, your final score. And now finishing things off, but staying in the KBO, some good news for all you KBO fans who've been sick of all the blown calls by the umpires, because a video replay system might be used starting at the second half of the season. Now, with the directors of the 10 KBO teams meeting in Incheon on Tuesday, they've agreed to the league using the video replay system on safe or out, fair or foul, and catch or no catch calls that might have been miscalled by the umpires. While the managers of the KBO teams will also meet to finalize this new rule, once in effect, it will be implemented after the All-Star break. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
And it's time to take a peek at the secrets behind the success stories of some of the strong SMEs here in the country. And today's item, it just has to come with some warm rice.
Some rice.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get some meal before we enjoy the bingsu, right? So first things first, we are going to talk about Ganjang-Gejang with our Jessie Day. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Ganjang-Gejang is known as the rice thief. Do you guys know why?
Of course.
It's so good.
It's so good.
And you have to have that rice with it. I mean, it's salty, but at the same time, just so yummy and
savory.
scrumptious.
Yeah, and it synergizes with the rice so well. It's a really popular Korean traditional dish, but it's becoming very popular with tourists, particularly Chinese and Japanese tourists. And one restaurant in particular is leading the way, turning a traditional Korean dish into an international sensation. So let's find out how they did it on this week's edition of Strike Gold. Gunsan, Jeollabuk-do Province, the famous Ganjang-Gejang restaurant, Gyegok Garden, is located in the outskirts of the city. Its location may be remote, but that hasn't stopped people coming from all over the country to fill up the restaurant. And as you can see, a line forming outside. Very popular.
Wow.
Yeah.
I came from Daejeon because the Ganjang-Gejang here is so famous.
The 400 odd seats in the restaurant are always full. 400, that's a lot. And after much anticipation, the Ganjang-Gejang finally arrives at the table. And take a look at that.
I'm not even listening to Jesse anymore.
The firm flesh and the delicious roe, together with the soy sauce marinade, is supposed to taste unbelievably good. And for those who've tried it before, you know that to be true. It is tasty.
Now, it is raw, but it is fermented at the same time.
That's
so
right.
It's good. It's perfect.
No
good
worries
to go.
about it going bad.
Now, the restaurant opened 25 years ago, but at first, Ganjang-Gejang was not their signature menu.
Spectacular.
I initially ran a galbi restaurant and served Ganjang-Gejang as a side dish.
That's interesting.
But it became so popular and people said they'd come to the restaurant more for the Ganjang-Gejang than for the galbi.
I guess his galbi wasn't that good.
After having their Ganjang-Gejang recipe
Ganjang-Gejang took off,
patented in 2002, Gyegok Garden became the first Gejang restaurant in the country to establish a manufacturing plant to mass produce Ganjang-Gejang. Now they're an SME that represents the region.
Wow.
And a lot of crab there, thanks to the high demand. Gyegok Garden uses about 1 ton of blue crabs each day on average. Only the best in-quality blue crabs are selected after thorough inspections during peak season and quick frozen for storage. The crabs are thawed just before they are cooked. Gyegok Garden says the most important part of handling crabs are the selection of high-quality crabs and their storage.
We only use the blue crabs in season, caught at the west coast. It's superb quality with its firm, fresh, and abundance of roe.
And another important secret to their success lies in the soy sauce marinade. Gyegok Garden sauce is known for being quite unique compared to other Ganjang-Gejang sauces. And it does look absolutely delicious there as well.
The soy sauce in the Gejang here is not salty at all. You could drink it like a beverage.
During the development of the Ganjang-Gejang recipe, the most effort went into the making of the soy sauce. The main reason that Gyegok Garden's Ganjang-Gejang recipe could be patented was all the medicinal herbs that went into it.
Wow.
And quite a wide variety there, so very good for your health as well. Thanks to the medicinal herbs, the soy sauce remains savory even after adding more water to make it less salty. The sauce is boiled and cooled 3 times for fermentation, in keeping with the restaurant's tradition.
Now I know his secret.
Yes, Gyegok Garden's
We all
special
know
recipe
it.
is the fruit of the founders' tireless efforts to research everything from regular cookbooks to the ancient Korean medical encyclopedia, Dongi-boga. Gyegok Garden's popularity grew even more after online orders became available, allowing people to enjoy the dish anywhere in the country. Between sales at the restaurant, online orders, and mass distribution to about 30 affiliated stores, the annual sales reach about 10 billion won. So quite profitable. And as you can see, they have a lot of product to ship out, but they make sure that it stays frozen so that once it thaws out, you prepare it with the same flavor. And now orders are even pouring in from overseas as well, and their Ganjang-Gejang is exported to countries like the US, Japan, and China. After finishing their Ganjang-Gejang meals at Gyegok Garden, no one seems to leave empty-handed. For Gyegok Garden to grow as a representative business in Jeollabuk-do Province, word of mouth by the loyal customers definitely played a big role. It started as a regional specialty, but Gyegok Garden has turned Ganjang-Gejang into an art form, quickly leading to its reputation as a signature Korean dish. And there is the clap classic
the Ganjang-Gejang right in front
Ganjang-Gejang
of us.
and rice.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
It does look unbelievable.
You guys can go ahead and try
Let's
some.
try this, and
Yes,
I'll show
please
you.
do.
Okay, Young can have one of the legs, I suppose.
Okay, there's a way of eating this, so our viewers know. This is the eggs, or the roe as we call it, and these are the females, and they have to be in season for it to form like this. So you got to go ahead and try this. Just
And I'll show you another way we enjoy the Ganjang-Gejang. You have to take the tukao. What do you call this part? I suppose right. And then you have to put some rice right there.
Yep.
Right. Ooh, looks so good.
Tasty?
This is so good. You know, I actually go around looking for the best Ganjang-Gejang places, right? And the thing is that if it's too salty, it's no good. This is the perfect amount of seasoning in here.
Right.
And that's the dessert of it all. That's to cap it off.
This is, and usually the most senior person in the family gets to have this shell, right?
Oh, really?
Whoever's paying gets it.
Okay, that's how it works.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Wow, we're gonna share spoons. Sorry.
But like some Ganjang-Gejang can be too salty and fishy, but
That's right.
this completely
It's
tastes
not salty
different.
at all.
But I heard that Gyegok Garden was the first to use medicinal herbs to.
Yeah, it's a big part of their recipe. In fact, the creator of the restaurant spent 10 long years perfecting this recipe and adding 10 different medicinal herbs. It was patented in 2002. Now, the medicinal herbs aren't just for flavor, they help to preserve it as well.
So
and
not
make
much
it more
salt
healthy.
goes in it.
Right, and the other thing is a lot of people are a little bit turned off by it because of the salty and fishy flavor. The medicinal herbs help to reduce that to make it more appealing to everybody's palate, and that has definitely been a big part of the success of that dish.
Yeah, when you have some Gejang that's been a little bit sitting around for a while, sometimes you do get that fishy type of thing. There's no fishiness. I mean, our viewers need to understand that there's no fishiness involved in this, and it does taste fabulous, and I could completely understand why it's called papdoduk.
Yeah.
Now, traditional foods from different areas, everyone has their own recipe. For example, kimchi. Everybody has their own recipe, right? So it seems kind of odd that they would actually patent this and, just mass produce it at the same time.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. Go ahead, help yourself. It's breakfast time here. But yeah, that's correct. In fact, a lot of people didn't think it would be able to get patented because there are so many different recipes for Ganjang-Gejang. But he was able to do it, and a big reason why is because he wanted to go beyond just being the best restaurant. He wanted to create a standardized recipe for the dish from that region for both reasons of flavor consistency and to make it more hygienic and easier to ship as well. And in fact, it's this sort of forward thinking that led them to win an InnoBiz Innovation Award in 2010 for being an SME with forward thinking and innovative competitiveness.
I'm quite surprised that foreigners are warming up to the taste too, because I guess this being raw and seafood, so I would imagine it takes some getting used to. It's an acquired taste, to be honest, and it's warming up though. I mean, there is demand for Ganjang-Gejang abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, it's becoming very popular with Chinese and Japanese tourists, but it's also getting exported to the U.S. And now there's a special method they use of freezing the sauce and the crab separately before they're shipping it to ensure the product is safe and to ensure that it has a consistent flavor. Now, there are chains opening in other countries of Ganjang-Gejang, but for Gyegok Garden, they want to always use Korean blue crabs to make sure that the flavor is consistent and maintains their recipe. So for that reason, it's very important that their freezing process for shipping the product is top-notch so that it retains that flavor when it gets to its destination.
Yeah, I want our cameras to get this real quick because Minjung failed to get all the stuff on the side, all this good stuff right here.
Would you like some?
No, there's a lot in here. This is
oh wow, okay, well,
this is the magic ingredient right here. I know it might look a little bit squishy and gooey to
those
some,
who are not
but
accustomed.
This tastes really good.
My in-laws usually take the best parts, so I didn't. I'm not.
So different
accustomed
regions
to.
have different types of foods for people. Chuncheon, for example, kakgalbi.
Yeah.
Also, Andong is well known for their jimdak, and this actually does a lot to boost the local economy as well as the name of the region, right?
Sure, and a lot more than people previously believed. I mean, people are traveling these days around Korea more and more specifically just to try out local dishes. In fact, Korea Tourism Organization did a survey where they found that over 80% of travelers around Korea were searching online for regional dishes, restaurants, and eateries. So now local governments are starting to take notice and develop and promote regional specialty dishes to attract more tourism. And for people who love food like me and obviously you guys, it's great news.
I think you brought the right one for today.
Yes, and I'm always on this side of the table, so...
I'm sorry, would you like some? Now it's your turn to enjoy.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Jessie, so much. It's a great dish. It's quite amazing that they can be as successful as they are with just that dish, right?
Exactly. Save me some rice there, buddy.
Okay, I'm going to dig into this. Thank you for having me.
Time for dessert now.
Well said. We'll just toss it right over to Angela Park and Peter Bin. You have a dessert ready?
Yes, we do.
Good morning. Well, technically it's not ready. We want to show you the making process, but we indeed have dessert. Now, anyone who's witnessed, endured a summer here in Korea, it can get pretty brutally hot. We are seeing a slight cool dip because of the Typhoon Noguri, but after it passes, I think it's safe to say temperatures are going to reach scorching highs, right? And so if you go to coffee shops these days, we just call it coffee shops. We should really call it bingsu shops because there's more bingsus on the table or pap bingsus than there are coffees.
Sure, there's so many pap bingsus. You're not cool if you don't have a pap bingsu, like literally.
Literally, yeah. So we have hot item products that will help to make quality, very, very tasty shave ice, starting with, get this, this is an ice shaver that doesn't use ice.
It doesn't use ice. Surely the definition of an ice shaver is something that uses ice cubes to shave the ice into ice shavings.
You would think, right?
But this doesn't use ice cubes.
Does not use ice. So you're thinking, what? It's called an ice shaver. How do you make shaved ice? It takes a technology. In fact, we saw a new type of technology where you take literally the water state, so I should say the liquid state of water, right? And then they directly basically convert it into shaved ice in a much easier step without the middle step of having the ice cubes and grinding it.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so I guess if you take out that step, it's much less convoluted as well, the step, and it must be quick as well.
Right.
Easy to make.
So the technology behind it, there's a refrigeratory, that's the key component there. There's a compressor and it rushes in cooling gas at about a pressure of 5 kilograms. Now this will take the temperatures up, or down I should say, to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Water is then added into the refrigeratory, and then the water being added does drop it a little bit to minus 25 degrees Celsius, but that is the optimum level to not only get ice, but you're shaving it into this powdery substance.
Wow.
So snowboarders know if you fall on like hard old ice, that's not fun, but that's soft powder, right?
Yeah, and if you taste that powder,
exactly,
well,
it just melts.
As long as no one's been on it, it tastes nice, right?
Right. So Peter, let me show you actually.
Yes, I want to see.
This is the machine, right?
Wow.
So if I open it up, you just have to turn it on with the touch of a button. It's just you turn it on, it takes about 70 seconds.
It's snowing in there right now.
You want to feel it?
Can I feel it?
Yes.
It looks like Antarctica for Smurfs or something.
Make sure your hands are clean, Peter.
Well, we can't have the puppings you now after your fingers have
Peter,
you made it so snow. Well, okay, so although
we have a picky audience today.
Now, it's a lot quieter than some of the other items that you've introduced, but it is making a little bit of noise there. That's the noise that we've been hearing, right?
Now, the thing is, if you eat bingsu, though, depending on the ice, like this bunches up really easily. It doesn't melt. It's in my hand, right?
Sure.
But it's not melting, and it's because this would actually, I would add, are you just eating ice,
really
Peter? But it would make the pap bingsu tastier because once it reaches that liquidy, watery state, it doesn't taste very good.
No one likes a soggy bingsu, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. But it seems a lot more efficient. But Is it safe to eat? I hope you're going to say yes, because I've eaten it.
Right. Yeah, I saw you enjoying it, ice chips. No, but the water, there's a purifier system, and the purifier was approved by the U.S. National Science Foundation, so that should make you feel a little bit more safe. Also, if you notice, it's stainless steel, which, number one, it helps to maintain it nice and cool, but you can store or keep the ice in there, as we've been doing since the start of the show, at a great state.
Wow, that's fantastic. So now we've got the ice shavings. Bingsu is not just about the ice shavings, it's about the toppings. And these days, lots of places put ice cream on top, right? I'm going to go and turn on my machine. It takes a few seconds to warm up.
I'm going to join you back here then.
Okay. Let me just switch it on. It's a bit noisy for the start, but then it definitely quietens down. So yeah, ice cream like chocolate ice cream or strawberry ice cream, vanilla, they were the typical ones that used to be used, right? But these days, you've got lots of different flavors, any fruit you could think of, even vegetables.
I've seen like kiwi bingsus and mango bingsus.
Oh, mango is my favorite, right? But this is the instant fruit ice cream maker. Instant is the key word there.
Okay, so quick, convenient, I'm assuming. How does it work?
Okay, well, it's really simple. All you need to take is the fresh washed fruit, right?
Are you sure they're washed?
Yes, I'm pretty certain. And the ice cream powder that you can actually get in many supermarkets, and mix them together, preferably in a blender, right?
Okay.
And then
tomato ice cream, huh, Peter?
You can have tomato ice cream, yeah, very healthy indeed. And then what you come out with is this almost soup-looking like texture here.
This looks like you made it with kiwi.
I did make it with kiwi. Very keen eye there, Angie. So then what you do with this mixture is just pour a little bit into here. You don't need the whole thing. And it is amazing what
You're gonna like actually do the work, huh?
Absolutely. I hope my arms are up to it. But anyway, you put it in here and instantly you spread it out and it starts freezing, okay?
It kind of looks like you're making a crepe.
Yeah, an ice cream crepe, I guess. And then you just need to spread it around and keep freezing it. But if it gets too hard on this surface, too frozen, there's a pedal down here, which I hope the camera can catch. And it's a heating pedal. It instantly thaws the ice cream straight away and makes it easy to scoop up again.
I don't know if our cameras are catching this, but the second Peter pressed down, I'll press it down for you while you mix it.
Yes, please.
So I'm going to push down
Not too long.
Okay,
Don't
push down the pedal, and then you'll see a layer as it'll literally melt.
Exactly. See
that,
it all goes back to the liquid form. And you do this for literally, the quickest is 30 seconds, but about 60 seconds, and you will have an ice cream if you spread it out nice and thin.
I am starting to see it kind of chunk up now and get into the more ice creamy texture, whereas
like this.
It was liquid like this before, right?
Sure. So this, because I'm a beginner at this, obviously, it doesn't look very appetizing, but...
Peter's been complaining he needs a workout. So.
I do. This is a good workout. But if you see now, it's coming slowly into an ice cream texture. Let me just finish it off. I want it perfect before you try it.
I'm going to put it in the cup here.
So it's this patented instant ice making and thawing technology, which makes it into look, an ice cream, right? I'll scrape it in here.
It was like fruit puree.
Exactly. Wow.
Peter, you would be very popular with my kids.
The ice cream will be popular. I don't know about Peter. Let me see that. Machine is definitely... Okay.
It literally has the texture of ice cream.
Sure, and it's really fresh,
But it tastes like a fruit smoothie, sort of.
Like a sorbet, maybe?
Yeah, kind of like that. And you don't taste all that kind of extra, almost like heavy creaminess.
It's
a
not
very
just
light
sugary
flavor.
as well, right? It's almost like a sherbet, right? So now we've got the ice cream and we've got the ice shavings. Why don't we make a pup bingsu?
Oh man, that was delicious. Okay, so then we're going to. Oh, I kind of ate out of that cup. I feel bad. Maybe
it's okay.
We'll have to make more ice cream. Okay, then we're going to make pat bingsu for our MCs. Now, for our viewers who do not know the process of making pat bingsu, I'm going to get, of course, the key component.
Yes, the ice shaving. Oh, it's literally falling out. Do you want to build a snowman,
You're a little bit outdated with that one.
I should let it go.
Can you get the spot that Peter didn't touch?
Okay, so we piled some ice in there.
Then we need the pat, the red beans. Savory, very, very interesting flavor.
And then jump back here.
Pour that here. Okay.
And milk. Milk bingsu is like a real, it adds that creamy flavor. It's very popular. So I'm just going to pour a little bit of milk in here. Hopefully it won't melt it too much. Ooh, I'm making a mess.
Ooh, very nice. And then the key point the ice cream, the fruit ice cream. Probably the most delicious part of this bingsu, I must admit.
Let's make it a mixed fruit. We're just adding everything on there.
Some Oreos as well.
Some blueberry syrup as well.
And this is perfect with raw crab as a dessert. I'm telling you.
I know, the kids would love making that.
Maybe even a bit of fruit. Let's just have a party in a bowl.
This doesn't look very pretty.
Okay. Yeah, it may not look pretty, but let's deliver it to our MCs and we get your opinion.
I would strongly advise you guys to stay away from making a bingsu shop or something. Because I'm sure
individually it's good.
It's cute. I think. It's very cute.
Yes.
Looks like a kindergarten school project, right?
I love the plate too. It really brings out the whole dish. Thank you so much. We'll enjoy this as we wrap up the show.
Thanks a lot.
All right, well, that's all we have prepared for you on this Wednesday morning.
All right, I'm going to hold off on that until I have some more Ganjang-Gejang. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.